Okay. Quickly, and even see the first thing I've already missed. Thanks for joining. Um, so anyway, what I'm going to do is, if you look at this map here I've got, if you're on either Facebook or on LinkedIn, if you're looking at the map, you're going to see that we did a lot of our research on the West Coast, and we went as far as about Georgia to the East Coast. We have not ventured into the farther eastern portion of the United States. So areas like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, we haven't really touched that. We're just looking at just those postings that over the past few weeks, we've been tracking for about the past 3 weeks, and we've tracked about 600 facilities throughout the United States, and we have looked at what are they offering in terms of sign-on bonus. Now, I got this somehow my backdrop just went away, so let me fix that. That's really weird. Okay. Not sure why that happened. Let's see if we can fix it. Ah, that's what it is. Okay. Then that covered me up. Okay, there we go. That's better. All right. So I'm going to switch over to the screen, and I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. So we're going to transition over to the browser, and that'll take me just a second here. I want to put that on top for a moment. Okay, you see that? Okay, so that's the map, and again, it goes from 30,000 down to 500. Now I'm going to go through some of the top locations in the United States that are offering the high sign-on bonus. So here's the page I have here that shows that. It's the top is 30,000, and it's in a couple of places. There's one place in Salt Lake City, Utah. They're offering a $30,000 sign-on bonus for a pediatric registered nurse, and that's in the newborn or the NICU area. They're offering a $30,000 sign-on bonus. Wow, that's Intermountain Healthcare. And then In Colorado, believe it or not, Colorado, there's a $30,000 incentive. Now, what they're doing is, I think it's because some of the real estate is so expensive there, they're offering their sign-on bonus in terms of a relocation. So they're lumping all of their incentive into the relocation. So apparently, if you want to buy a home or move into that area, you have an opportunity to get a $30,000 relocation expenses to move there and get settled into that area. So, and this is way in the far western part of Colorado. So that's an interesting area. Now, there's a bunch of them that are in the $20,000 range. Oh, I think it's some folks waving. So hi, we're waving back to you there. Okay, very cool. Yeah, if you have any, let me look back and see if anybody has questions before I move on. But yeah, $20,000 is the next one down, believe it or not. It goes right from 30 down to 20, which I thought was interesting that it jumped down so quickly. And then as far as some of the places, we're looking at Texas. I'm going to go over what some of the places are, what some of the types of jobs they are in just a moment here. So I'm bringing up the LinkedIn Live just in case you have questions there. Okay. So Randy Mike Jordan, thank you. I just saw your comment. You're saying, what state is this? The state for the $30,000 bonuses are Utah and Colorado. Now there are several that are 20,000. I'm about to run through those in just a second. Several more. And hello, Jody. I see you there too. Okay, so I guess everything's working. Everyone can hear me, right? Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Hope put a check mark or a thumbs up or something if you can hear me. I'm going to my Facebook here just to make sure I keep an eye on anyone who has questions on nurse guidance in just a moment. Okay. Yeah, looks like we're up and running there. So yeah, so if you have any comments there, I've got you up and running here. Okay, let me go a little further. So the $20,000 sign-on bonus, that is going to be in Texas, and that's El Paso. They're looking for, oh, by the way, I didn't mention this. The one in Colorado in Grand Junction, that's for an OR nurse. Now, as we're moving on to El Paso, they've got the charge mother-baby unit and the emergency room. Those two are offering 20. Now, what's interesting, when we did our research on this, they're apparently lumping everything into the sign-on bonus. Whereas the $30,000 one, I told you about that earlier, it's all relocation for the Colorado one. On the Salt Lake City, Utah one, they're taking $20,000 and allocating it to sign-on, $10,000 allocated towards relocation. As far as the ones in El Paso, all $20,000 is towards a sign-on bonus. Now there's actually, and that's emergency room and charge mother-baby unit. Now another one I thought was interesting here is the cardiovascular ICU nurse. That one's in Austin. They're offering a $20,000 sign-on bonus. That's the complete sign-on bonus. They don't seem to indicate anything for relocation, education, retention bonuses, things of that nature. They don't have that listed. Okay, then the next one I see here is Brownsville, Texas. Brownsville, Texas, they've got another $20,000 sign-on bonus. That's for the ER. Now you're going to start to see a recurring theme here. I thought it was interesting that a lot of these jobs are in the ER, that they're offering these sign-on bonuses. Now moving on to that was in Brownsville, that last one. Moving on to Kansas, we've got a Kansas one. It's a $20,000, again, an ER position. It looks like rural Kansas. I've never heard of this city. Atchison, Kansas is where it is. $20,000. They're all in on the sign-on bonus. Again, a recurring theme. Most of the incentives, they are focusing on the sign-on more so than the recurring education bonuses or retention bonuses or relocation, things of that nature. The next one is Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah. We talked about the $30,000 one earlier. This one's $20,000. This one is again for a pediatric ICU. Now the other one was the NICU. So I guess apparently they're having an even tougher time filling the NICU than they do the PICU. Surgery circulators. So we got another OR nurse position. That's 20,000. That's in Arkansas. That's surprising. Arkansas. Wow. We've got a couple of them in California. We've got an RN surgery to another OR nurse in California. There's a Long Beach and a Northridge. Both are offering $20,000 sign-on bonuses, which is again very interesting that they put it all in the sign-on bonuses. That's kind of interesting. I wonder if they're expecting the person who's coming on to use all of their money from the sign-on for relocation, because obviously, if they're coming from another state or another area, if you guys are, you're gonna have, it's gonna cost you several $1,000s to move. So I guess that's probably what their strategy is. Um, okay, so moving on. Another one in Long Beach. Now this one is for the director of the OR, director of perioperative. They're offering a $20,000 sign-on bonus. And then we're going back to Kansas. Now we're down to 15,000. 15,000. But just another thing we noticed too, in these 600 facilities, out of those 600 facilities, the average is about $8,000 to $10,000. Roughly about 8,000 is what the average amount is. And out of that 8,000, many of them are actually picking either a 10,000 or a 7,500. No one actually chose 8 that we've seen so far. Okay, so 15,000 sign-on bonus. I'm going to run through a couple of places here. We've got Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas, which I believe is a Kansas City area, kind of a suburb of that. They're looking, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's 20,000, not 15. They're actually doing 20,000 for the sign-on bonus, and then 5,000 is for the relocation. So they're splitting it up. So 5,000 relocation, 20,000 for the total incentives. So 15,000 sign-on bonus, 5,000 relocation. That's in Kansas. That's in Overland Park, Kansas. Now we're coming down to the 15,000. That's where we're getting Arizona. That's a cardiovascular ICU job, so a CV ICU nurse. So if you're not familiar, that's a nurse who's not only working in not just in ICU, but they're concentrated with cardiovascular cases. And then, of course, we've got another emergency nurse. Now, we've got several positions here. This is in Alamogordo. This is a place that's near and dear to my heart, Gerald Champion. This is a client I've worked with for several years. Love those guys. It's a great organization. Been there several times. I highly encourage looking at that. And yes, I am biased, but I've literally met most of the staff, the nurse staff there and their leaders, and they're just a great crew. So they have several positions that are offering 15,000 for. And that 15,000 does include the relocation portion of it as well. Now they do offer some subsidies. That's not listed in the ad, but sometimes they'll offer subsidies in terms of maybe offering a place to live for a short period while you're trying to search for your home. And you may ask some of these other places, do you also offer any kind of subsidy for housing? Sometimes what they'll do is they'll have places that they usually house the travelers in, and they can put you there. Or they may have some other facility that's owned by the hospital. It may be an apartment, it may be a house. They may be able to put you there while you just moved there and you're trying to get all of your ducks in a row and find out where you're going to live and all that sort of good thing. Also, some places they'll actually pay a portion of your rent or a portion of your first few months rent in order to help you get situated into the area, and that's in lieu of a relocation or sometimes in addition to a relocation. So sometimes those options are there. Moving on, Missouri, we've got Kansas City, Missouri here. That's 15,000 for Kansas City, Missouri. Then we've got, and that's for another OR position, by the way. Oh, and going back to Gerald Champion, ER, labor and delivery, operating room. These are ones that they've had recent postings for that 15,000 sign-on bonus. For the another New Mexico location, there's another place in New Mexico that also is offering some sign-on bonuses for OR and the ER. Now we know with COVID-19 right now, that has changed a lot. If you're working as a nurse and you're working at a hospital, you already know this, that a lot of the elective surgeries are just being taken away for now, and they're just electing to have all those hands on deck to help with those COVID cases that come in the door. So therefore, the demand for the OR is definitely down. So I will start to see perhaps maybe some of those sign-on bonuses not necessarily be there. You may see that some of those ads may get pulled down, but what I definitely see going up is the ER and the ICU cases. Those are just going to be through the roof. And another thing I don't have listed tonight, and I don't know that if any of you are watching are respiratory therapists, but that is going to be a super hot specialty, because that is a big part of the COVID-19 is the respiratory system. So that's what's compromised usually with that disease. So you're talking about really a lot of demand for those folks. But right now we're talking about nurses. So nurses specifically, it's really the ER and the ICU is going to be the most needed. Now, people are still going to have babies, right? So you're still going to need to have those labor and delivery nurses. So I think you're still going to continue to see those sign-on bonuses there. I just see the OR nurse sign-on bonuses going down. Now, some of those OR nurses, what they may be doing is of course transitioning and maybe doing some ER cases and helping out with ICU and things like that. But just the OR, especially because of the amount of elective surgeries that have been pulled out, they're only going to do the most needed surgeries right now. Those are going to be prioritized, but not anything elective. So if it's an OR nurse position that's based on, let's say, cardiovascular, for example, I mean, those are not elective generally. Most of them are needed. So those will continue. Okay, moving on. We've got some other states that are coming into the mix here. Once we hit the 15,000 mark, we're bringing back in Texas. We're bringing in Louisiana. There's a Marrero, Louisiana position that's for an emergency room nurse, ER nurse, recurring theme once again. In Texas, we've got a cardiac registered nurse there, so a cardiovascular nurse, another labor and delivery. And Alabama, now Alabama's coming up on the list. They're looking for a labor and delivery there. We also have some more things come up in Nebraska. Interesting. So Nebraska, there's some skilled nursing and labor and delivery positions with CHI. We see there's also, we got some other ones coming up in California at the 15,000 mark. Now I'm noticing pretty much all of these, they're all in on the sign-on bonus. They're not really spending any part of the job posting talking about relocation. Some of these places like Merced, Gardena, West Hills, San Jose, Thousand Oaks. And we know some of those places are not cheap to live, especially like San Jose. But at any rate, it's 15,000 as a sign-on bonus to move there. Again, I would ask about, is there any kind of subsidy for housing, any provisions for housing when you're first moving into that area, because some of those areas can be quite pricey. Back to Texas, but now we've talked about 15,000. Now we're down to 12,500. So for the 12,500 mark, that's where we're seeing some other additional places come up. Like for instance, Texas, we've got in Frisco, Dallas, we're seeing CVICU, we're seeing labor and delivery, and also back in California, we're seeing operating rooms, another OR position. Don't know if that's still the case, but hey, they have it listed, probably for CV cases also. Ortho, we've got ortho is there. That's at the 12,000 mark. So let me just do a quick little check in here with my group, see if we have any questions. Okay, looking good. All right. Hopefully I haven't bored you to tears. But I guess if you're interested in sign-on bonuses, this would be pretty good stuff here. All right, so moving on, going a little further, we've got Alabama, we've got Jasper, Alabama, looking for an ortho nurse. We've got Tulsa, Oklahoma. So Tulsa, Oklahoma is another area where they're apparently needing some nurses, clinical documentation specialists. Of course, if you're probably not familiar with that, it's going to be more of the EMR type stuff, and making sure that the billing stuff and the reimbursement stuff is put in correctly, which is not necessarily bedside, but still it's something apparently they need a lot there. Okay, now the next spot that we get a lot of, and I'm not going to go through all these locations because it's literally over 100 locations. It's like 150 locations that are offering $10,000 sign-on bonuses. So that's kind of more a par for the course, kind of the average. You're going to find either 7,500 or 10,000. but I'm seeing a lot of different states here. Let me cut on back where you can actually see me again here. Let me bring this back down. Yeah, so basically we're seeing quite a few different states that are in the mix. And I'm going to put this, I'm going to put the map up here in just a second, but I want to at least kind of go through some of these with you. Some things we're seeing coming up is, again, ER and ICU coming up over and over and over again. We do have OR that's also coming up. And I'm also seeing a few of the cardiovascular positions, especially in OR. So that seems to be kind of the trend right now, is if it's OR, it tends to be more the cardiovascular OR than just the regular OR, but there is quite a few of the regular OR that are still listed. That tells me that it might be too that a fair amount of their cases are CV related, or they're at least cases that we know are necessary cases. They're probably not a lot of elective surgeries. These are surgeries that really people need. Perhaps it could be trauma related, but there's no elective. There's not really much elective surgeries going on right now in the United States. So they're being definitely curtailed. But I'm seeing a lot of ER positions throughout the United States. I am seeing a couple of PACU positions, but they're spanning from, we're looking at Texas, we're looking at Colorado, we're looking at Arizona. Quite a few positions in Arizona that are paying in that 10,000 mark. I'm talking dozens of positions. They are, like I was saying earlier, OR position related. Now, you don't see this very often. They actually have a med surge position for 10,000. You don't see too many of those. I can count on my fingers how many times I would see a med surge position. There's even a tele position in Tucson that they're touting a $10,000 sign-on bonus for. That's kind of surprising, actually, because you don't see tele and you don't see med surge very often. So apparently they must have a tough time bonuses. And one of the things that you do want to find out pretty quickly is what's the amount of time that you need to commit in order for that sign-on bonus to be valid. Now, the good news is, because there is such a big need for nurses, that if you do take a sign-on bonus and something you just cannot avoid, you just have to move for whatever reason, you have to leave, that you really don't have a choice, that if you do move to another place, there is an opportunity there that you may have another sign-on bonus that you could take and pay off the old one. But that's obviously not the goal of the facility. They're looking to try and retain you. I would say more often than not, you're going to see 2 to 3 years. That's kind of the average. It's two to 3 years is usually the commitment on the sign-on bonuses. All right, so just move a little bit further along. Looking at some other states here, we've got quite a few in Louisiana, Missouri, and Alabama. We talked about that earlier. They're all in that $10,000 range, and a majority of them are going to be either OR related, post-surgical. Well, that's also ER related. I do see some PACU, some CV stuff. Going down a little bit further, lots of ICU positions, guys. I mean, in California, it's just ICU position after ICU position. There's burn, there's neuro, pediatric, regular ICU, Bakersfield, San Diego, San Leandro is wound care, Westminster. There's actually an LA position, believe it or not. That's in the OR though. It's not a surprise. I'm sorry, ER. Did I say OR? ER. That's in the ER, which we see as a recurring theme. So that's an ER for Los Angeles. That's actually Hollywood Presbyterian. Maybe you've heard of that one. Bakersfield, we've got Banning, we got Susanville. Never heard of Susanville. Laguna Hills, California. Those are all 10,000 sign-on bonus. I see a West Hills, and I'm seeing Kansas come up again, which is interesting. Washington. So those of you who are in Washington or want to go to Washington, there's some $10,000 sign-on bonuses out there with a couple of different organizations. They are, now one of them says, RN rock stars wanted. That's real specific. Medical surgical cluster for a flow RN, and then another flow RN for ICU. We also see that there are quite a few more coming up in California and Missouri at the 8,000 mark, or 7,500 to 8,000 mark. So you've got a psych nurse. Oh boy, we need psych nurses, don't we? No doubt there's folks who need that when they walk in the ERs. Okay, so psych nurses, we have a need for, again, med surge. That's another surprise. I think that's only the second one I've seen so far. A med surge position, that's in Tulare, California. I'm seeing that there is a progressive care in Fort Worth, Texas. Interesting. That now I have heard that's somewhat of a play on the whole med surge thing. I guess it's probably right before you go to ICU, or it's just med surge. Not sure what they mean by progressive care. Maybe some of you guys know what that. I'm not a nurse, so I'm just a recruiter. So maybe you know what that is. Um, but more commonly, we see either ICU or med surge. Uh, in Arizona, we have quite a few that are 7,500. Moving on to Oklahoma, we actually have an Oklahoma one and an Arkansas. Those are just saying RN, so they're just looking for an RN. I don't have the job description in front of me, but most of those that offer a sign-on bonus, unless it says new grad in the title, they're probably looking for at least a year or two of experience. But that's one where you can just pretty much do general nursing there. As I go down further, I see some more coming up in Montana actually. I got hospice, med surge, and ER ICU. Those have come up. And I'm noticing too, there's actually some more Utah. Oh, Mississippi. I haven't seen Mississippi yet. I have just a regular old RN in Mississippi. Now, well, no, I take that back. It's out of behavioral health care. That's really more of a psych RN, probably. They're saying it's just RN, but if it's at a behavioral health care facility, obviously that's for a psych nurse. We have now we're dipping down in the 6,000 range and the 5,000 range. Not 6 and 5,000. Now we're getting below the average, but still, it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it's still like 5-6 grand. Um, I'm noticing. Here's something that's really interesting here. Okay, so we've got several that are in at a place in New Orleans. Oh, that makes sense too. Well, they really need folks there in New Orleans. Um, some of my people live there too. My kin folks live in New Orleans. Thinking about those guys. Anyway, wow, emergency, so ER, infusion, endoscopy, um, wound care, OR circulator. They've got several positions that are paying 5,000. So let's keep them in our thoughts. Alexandria, Louisiana, quite a few positions there at the 5,000 level. I'm just going to skip through some of these here. I do see another New Mexico coming up. I see California, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Oklahoma, Arkansas. Now, I'm not going to go into the ones that are hitting below 5,000. Not because I don't think it's important, but it's just I don't want to spend all night going through the whole spreadsheet. There's 600 facilities here. What I'm thinking about doing, you can tell me this. Do you think it's valuable to you if we made this type of spreadsheet and information available to nurses? Would that be helpful? Just looking at a map like this, and I'm going to zoom in a couple of places just to kind of show you what I mean here. Now, all the grays, that's places where they don't actually say what the sign-on bonus is, right? So like this one here, there's no sign-on bonus listed, but they say yes, they do have a sign-on bonus, but they're not telling us how much it is. Now, I do have on this map, like for instance, to show you an example, here's Dallas area. And so you see lots of reds. Those are all $5,000. Yeah, those are all $5,000 for the reds. But there are some bigger ones in here. Let me zoom a little more. I think I just saw a $12,000 one just now. Let's zoom in. There we go. Didn't zoom in enough. I know it's right in there. I just saw it. Back out of this. Yeah, this one here. Yeah. Medical City Heart and Spine. I think it's an HCA hospital. That's in Dallas. We're looking for a CVOR nurse there. Just to get you an idea of where, I know I talked about earlier, I know I'm a little biased here, but I'm going to show you one of my favorite places. Okay, right here. So if you look at, you see like there's El Paso there. This is New Mexico. It's a southern New Mexico. I don't know if you ever seen like the movie Transformers, or there's like a lot of movies that they actually film a lot of those movies near this city. It's called Alamogordo. That's where Gerald Champion is. That's because they have the White Sands National Park. They also have the Holloman Air Force Base there, but it is absolutely beautiful. There's just miles and miles of beach with no water, which is really interesting. It's all white sands. But the facility there, they have several positions that they're offering 15,000 for. Another one that's near and dear to my heart, and right now they really are recruiting for not only RNs, but also they're recruiting for respiratory therapists. Let's see, here we go. This place is gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever been here before. Vale, right here. This is an absolutely gorgeous area. They have relocation for quite a few positions, including I think this PAC human nurse position. That's what they're listing, at least in the description. But for sure, you know, OR, and we know the OR cases are going to pick back up, but I know we've been recruiting there for quite some time for OR nurses, and have been successful in bringing nurses there, and they have a really good top-notch organization, and the area is just absolutely gorgeous. If you're into skiing, any kind of outdoor activities, hiking, what have you, but they're offering that. Those are places that I personally know, and I know the people there, and it's a nice group of folks there. But that just gives you an idea how just all over the place you can kind of zoom in on certain areas. Now, you know, in Denver, there's places too. You know, for instance, that's a place you're looking for. You got different places like 5,000 is pretty common, kind of a common number. The cardiac ICU, PACU nurse. There's one a little further down, south of Denver, another 10,000 one. So that way you'd have a tool that if you just kind of want to zoom in and see where they're offering the sign-on bonus. Wow, this is interesting. Wow, 20 grand. That's that 20 grand we talked about earlier. That's another ED position in Kansas. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful to you. Hit me back up in the comments if you have any questions. Feel free to send me a message if you think you think this is something that would be beneficial for you. I would like to see a number of people who have looked at this just to give me your feedback on what was this helpful to you. Does this give you a better idea what the market is doing right now? So love to hear all of that. And if you're looking for something right now, would encourage you to go take a look at what we have at Health Video Jobs. So if you're on that that Facebook channel, just go ahead and click on that link to healthvideojobs.com and take a look at some of the jobs there. We pull all this data off of Indeed. Of course, you can find all the jobs that we promote on Indeed, but take a look at healthvideojobs.com, and that's the clients that we work with right now, and you know, some of the sign-on bonuses that they're offering, which is, as you can see, is very competitive with what you see in the overall market. What I have heard from nurses is if a place is a little bit too high, then there could be some extra questions you want to ask as to, you know, why is a sign-on bonus that much higher? Like, what has been their issue in recruiting, and see if it's an issue that is okay with you, because it may not be an issue for you. Maybe the reason why people aren't there and they're having a hard time recruiting, maybe the reason why you should go there. So ask those questions to kind of see and flesh out, you know, what's the reason why they have that sign-on bonus. And then, of course, the ones that are much lower, maybe you can ask some extra questions. Even though they have a lower sign-on bonus, maybe there's some other advantages that they have in that community. Maybe they offer a better subsidy. Maybe the sign-on bonus has very short period that you're committed. That could be another thing why the sign-on bonus is less. So it's maybe good to ask more questions. The key thing is you definitely don't want to go for a job just because of a sign-on bonus. I mean, all the other stuff has to fit, right? The overall types of cases they're doing, the type of hospital it is. And you may favor a certain size hospital, and you may feel that you want to be in a hospital that is more of a community-based hospital. Maybe that doesn't matter to you. Maybe you want to work in a trauma center. I mean, there could be a number of different motivators you have, but try and match that up as close as you can within the confines of what you're looking for compensation-wise, whether that's sign-on bonus, relocation, retention, education. Don't overlook education, because I mean there are some places like, for instance, the two that I was talking about earlier. They have a very strong education program. So if you want to go to school and get further schooling, you want to go and advance towards getting your master's and maybe a nurse practitioner, one of the facilities has a great program for that. The other one has a great program if you already have loans out there. They'll help you get those loans paid. They'll pay you a monthly amount on top of your regular salary to get your education paid for. So those are some things you want to ask and just find out before you, you know, rule out one place over another. All right, listen, guys, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you watching. I'm really looking forward to seeing those comments and those likes. Let me know if you like this material, so I'll know whether to create more things like this. We plan on doing more of this. We plan on gathering more information. We're going to do some stuff on the East Coast, see what's going on out there. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. We know this in New York and Connecticut, New Jersey. They're really getting hit hard right now. So obviously what we see on the job postings may not be 100% accurate because of what they're facing right now. So they're in our thoughts as well. We hope they're able to pull through in a good way. We know that a lot of nurses and other healthcare providers are putting their lives on the line, and we appreciate what they're doing to help folks to get well and stay well. So we can all do our part, of course, by staying home, which my wife and I are doing. We're staying home. We're working from home. We're doing all this from home because we want to make sure we're not one of those cases that those nurses have to work with. We want to stay right here where we can stay healthy. But anyway, hope you guys are able to stay healthy, be well, and hit me up again. Once again, likes and comments. All right, guys, have a great one. Thank you for your time.